All right. Good afternoon, everybody. It looks like we've got a pretty good group in the room already. I know there are a lot more on their way in. My name is Spencer Beasy. I'm with a company called Mobile Music Plus, and I am your MPI San Diego chapter president. So welcome. Thank you for being here. We're very excited. Our professional development team has been working really hard to put this event together. And they came up with a great concept, a great topic, and three great speakers, and a great moderator. So again, thank you for being here. I want to tell you about a couple of events coming up here in the MPI world, and make sure that you've got your calendar marked already. You see them right there on the screen. April 8th is Global Meetings Industry Day. And if you don't already know what that is, it's a celebration of what the meetings industry means to the world economy, to the US economy, and to our local economy. So that is the day where we celebrate all things meetings. And there you see right there, it's listed on the screen, the global event. MPI Global is putting together an event. It's going to be about, I think it's 12 hours because it scans the whole world. So everybody from Europe all the way through the US, Canada, South America, and into Asia, excuse me, will log on at various times. There is different content throughout the day. So if you'd like to register for that, it is free. You can go to mpi.org and go to the events tab, and it is right there. You just register and they'll send you the link as it gets a little closer. So right after that's finished, we're going to have a San Diego event, because San Diego event, the San Diego event community sticks together. We support each other, and this industry in this region in particular means so much to our economy here in San Diego, in California, and in the US as a whole. So we want to celebrate locally as well. I know many of you attended our really big last in-person, it seems like so long ago, our last time we did an in-person event for Global Meetings Industry Day was at the San Diego Air and Space Museum. Mayor Kevin Faulkner was on hand and spoke, and we had a lot of great things. We honored Margie Sitton from San Diego Tourism Authority as an influential person in the meetings industry. So it was a lot of fun. And then we did a virtual version last year. It was hosted by Global, MPI Global. So they're going to do that this year, but we're going to add our own local version in on top of that. Coming up after that, I want you to mark your calendar for May 6th. It's our MPI Unplugged, and that is our networking. It's our chance to get together, have a little fun, and just get to know each other a little better. Our networking and unplugged and social events team works really hard to put a fun concept together and really get us out there and meeting each other. That's one thing that it's so hard to compensate for in this world, is we're not getting together. I haven't seen any of you face to face, I don't think, since it's been a year. So I miss all of you. This is our chance. We can get together virtually for now. So mark that. You'll see an email coming out about that. And then May 18th, we've got another great topic that we're working on. I don't have details to put out to you just yet because we want to fine tune it all, but you can see it right there. It's May 18th is our next professional development meeting. So make sure you mark your calendar for that, and you'll see the email. Make sure you sign up when it comes out. Moving on past that a little bit, most of you got an email from MPI Global. It is the meeting, excuse me, the member satisfaction survey. That's kind of our report card here in MPI San Diego. So it's, we want your honest feedback, be constructive, help us figure out what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, things that we haven't done yet. We'd like to know what things you'd like to see us do. But today is the last day. So we want to make sure that we invite you to go fill out your survey. You should have gotten an email directly that you can just click on, and it already has your member, your member number embedded. If not, Aaron, can you put that link in there? You already did it. Thank you very much. Right there in the chat, you'll see the generic link. You can click that, and then you just need to have your your meeting member MPI number, and you can use that to log in. It takes about 10 minutes to take. Not a big deal, but it really helps us, and then we get our feedback after all those submissions are turned in. One of the great things about MPI is our volunteers. It's all the people, it's the members who step up month after month to help us put great things together, just like this event, just like Global Meetings Industry Day and that celebration. And so we like to take a little time every time we get a chance and thank those volunteers. We like to reward them and acknowledge them on a big stage just like this. So what are we at now? We're at 65 people. So that's as big a stage as we can get virtually for now. So today's volunteer that we'd like to recognize specifically was nominated for this award because of their help for the MPI San Diego 2020 holiday party, which we had virtually. You may remember there was a big scavenger hunt, which took us all around San Diego, and a lot of fun things. We had making drinks. We had gingerbread houses. We all kinds of interactive sessions on that party. So if you weren't there, you missed something really fun. But she was instrumental in that. And though she was nominated for that specific effort, I want to point out that she's been instrumental in the 2019 holiday party as well, which was a huge success. That was downtown, and it's a giant warehouse, and it was a lot of fun. We had a great turnout. And she was also instrumental in the 2019 Global Meetings Industry Day celebration that I just mentioned. And that awardee is from the San Diego Air and Space Museum, Melissa Paris. Congratulations, Melissa. You are our outstanding volunteer for March 2021. And we're very proud to have you serving along with us and doing all this great work that you do. So thank you for your efforts. I'm going to turn it over to our VP of Professional Development, Rachel Cohn.
Thank you, Spencer. So at this point, I would like to introduce you to our panelists and our moderator today. So I'm going to read some bios and tell you a little bit about them. So Rippetoe, Certified Venue Executive, CVE, is a convention and meeting industry veteran who serves as president and CEO of the San Diego Convention Center Corporation and as chair of the International Association of Venue Managers, IAVM Board of Directors. Rippetoe has a long and successful career in venue management and operations, including experience in for-profit, nonprofit, and governmental organizations. A published author who shares his expertise locally and nationally, Rippetoe has chaired several IAVM committees and served as a mentor in the IAVM Mentor Program. In San Diego, he serves on the boards of the Downtown San Diego Partnership, San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce, and San Diego Regional Economic Development Corporation. He is also board secretary for the Jacobs and Cushman San Diego Food Bank and serves on its executive committee. In support of arts and tourism, he is a steering committee member for the Comic-Con Museum and an advisor for the San Diego Hotel Motel Association and the San Diego Tourism Authority. Rippetoe, his team, and the Convention Center facility have earned many industry awards. Recently, Venues Now named Rippetoe a 2020 All-Star for venue management and leadership. He holds a bachelor's degree from Oklahoma State University and a master's degree from Claremont School of Theology. Our next panelist is Cris Joseph from Raphael's Party Rentals. Cris Joseph has been designing and helping couples, corporations, and social and charity groups create their dream events for the last 28 years in sunny San Diego. She specializes in taking a backyard, estate, or even a parking lot and transforming it into a beyond the ballroom experience that is customized to exceed her clients' expectations. Cris has been featured on many panels, being published in event magazines, and has appeared on local news shows to discuss event trends and logistics. Cris is the proud mom of 2 kids who are really tired of Zoom schooling. Our next panelist is Orsika Barabas from Crown Point Catering. Orsika is passionate about food and entertaining. She has evolved a philosophy of food, creating every meal into an event. Orsika's appetite for cuisine and hosting has expanded into a 30-plus year career as an accomplished caterer and event coordinator. Growing up in Europe with Hungarian roots, Orsika was raised around the art of entertaining and cooking. Through her experience in Europe, Orsika learned the art of creating parties catered around excellent food, life, music, and conversation. Orsika returned to the States for university, receiving dual degrees in international relations and French literature from the University of San Diego. She is a polyglot, speaking Hungarian, French, Spanish, and Italian. To this day, she enjoys traveling, learning new languages, and finding ways to convince her daughter to become a doctor, and of course, trying new cuisines. And finally, I'd like to introduce to you our moderator today, Lisa Kelly, with the San Diego Regional Chamber of Commerce. Lisa joined the Chamber of Commerce in 2016 and currently works as a marketing and events manager. She earned her CMP, Certified Meeting Professional designation, and also serves on the board of Meeting Professionals International San Diego chapter. Prior to joining the Chamber, Lisa managed marketing and events for Where San Diego magazine and worked as director of weddings at Visa Tui Winery in Napa, California, where she oversaw 50 weddings per year. Lisa graduated from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo with a bachelor's degree in communication studies and a minor in English. As a San Diego native and farmer's daughter, she loves the unique personality of this city of neighborhoods and enjoys the opportunity to collaborate with the various industries in chamber events, excuse me. When she's not creating events, Lisa enjoys spending time outside, running, hiking, traveling, snowboarding, or spending time with her husband, Eric, new baby Tate, and fur baby Coda. So at this point, I would like to turn it over to Lisa, who is going to ask our panelists their first question. Go ahead, Lisa, take it away.
Well, welcome everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in. We are so excited to have such a fabulous panel of experts sharing not only their expertise and accomplishments, but also kind of forecasting what they think, the future has for our industry. So we're so delighted to welcome them to this panel as well. So to kick it off, I'd like to just go ahead and ask a question of all of our panelists, and we'll each take turns kind of sharing our thoughts. But the first question I'd like to ask you today is if you could give us kind of a high-level summary of what 2020 has looked like for you. It's been an interesting year for everyone, but we'd love you to share some of your personal experiences, and perhaps a little bit about what adjustments you had to make in your business strategies, and then maybe where you saw some challenges or hopefully successes in these experiences this year. So I'd like to start off by kicking it over to Rip. Rip, if you could again give us a little bit of that high-level summary of what 2020 looked like for you.
Well, we shut down almost exactly a year ago today. Was the day I had asked everyone on our team to stay home. So it's ironic that this meeting is today. We received the order on March 12th of 20, and March 16th was the first day that no one came to work other than our core essential team. And then April 1st, we began operating as the lease holder for Operation Shelter to Home, and we've been a part of that sheltering operation and effort where we housed over 4,000 people over the past 12 months. So everything we've ever learned, we put into that effort. And first of all, I miss all of you. I miss everybody because of working remotely. We miss having people at the center. We miss being able to just get together for anything, really. I mean, that's been obviously the biggest issue and the biggest concern for all of us. But one of the things we learned in the process was that we actually found out that we have been so successful at bringing associations and trade shows and others into San Diego that we've missed opportunities along the way to be able to educate and build support and knowledge locally. And so we've had a whole new group of people coming in, and it's been great for us to be able to help educate some of the leaders in our community about what we do. I remember one of our very first meetings was on a Saturday afternoon at 4 o'clock, and some of them were very apologetic for having us come in. And I smiled and I said, I guess you really don't know what we do. And so, we make a strict rule. We only work on days that end in the letter Y. So this is not a problem. But the biggest thing for us is I stayed a lot busier than I expected because virtual meetings seem to be able to pack on top of each other much more than when we did them in person. And so it's not unusual to be on 6 or 8 hours of meetings in a day.
Well, thank you for sharing, Rip, and thank you for all of the efforts that the Convention Center has been doing for our community. And it's really been a huge testament to your team and the creativity it takes to shift on a dime and really be a service to our community. So thank you for sharing. I'd like to turn it over to Cris next. If you could share a little bit about your year and how you've made some transitions in your business strategy.
We definitely made a lot of transitions. We're lucky at Raphael's to be able to work outdoors a lot of what we do anyways. So we kind of, I hate the word pivot. Everyone hates the word pivot, but we pivoted. I knew I couldn't get through without saying it once, and took everything outdoors. We created entire dining rooms in parking lots and side streets. We created gyms and outdoor offices and all of the things that we would normally gather indoors for. We took it outdoors, and we had at one point, over 3 football fields worth of tenting out in San Diego County. So that's quite a lot. We were able to do many of the vaccine testing stations at the beginning. And then now we're doing the vaccine inoculations, the actual vaccination centers. So that's one of the great things that I think I'm proud that we've been a part of that, some drive-through experiences. We took a lot of the things that we already had, hedges and tenting and partitions and all of those things, and we worked them into the new events to try to give people spacing so that everybody's staying safe and everybody's at 6 feet apart, kind of. So we really took advantage of everybody's patios and terraces and outdoor anything, parking lot, whatever it is, we took advantage of it. Me personally, I got to work with Orsika. I actually helped her with a program that Crown Point did with Great Plates and in delivering meals. So I'm sure she'll talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, Cris, thanks for sharing that. And I think it's been 1 year that we've really seen a lot of collaborations that we wouldn't have seen before. And so that's definitely a success that I've experienced and witnessed in this crazy year that we're going through. But Orsika, yes, if you could share a little bit about your experiences this year with Crown Point Catering. Oh, Orsika, you're on mute. Thanks.
Okay. Hi. Yeah, we've had a very big shift in our business. We've got a great team here, and then we all kind of came together and changed our business model. And we were lucky enough to get a program called the Great Plates, which is funded by FEMA. And we just started a production line of preparing meals for at-risk seniors. And in the mornings, we'd prepare 3 meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and package them up and then deliver them to individual families every day. And Cris was one of our drivers and helpers. And it's actually been a great experience for us and for our team. We put a lot of people back to work, our kitchen staffs all back to work, and Kim also is a big factor. We've all worked together. So we're really lucky that we got this opportunity.
Yeah, and you can see some photos here below, just some of the opportunities that Crown Point Catering has had to serve the community there. What an incredible theme that I'm already picking up on, not only about collaboration and creativity this year, but also on service, and how all 3 of you have really been able to shift some efforts into serving the community here in San Diego. So that's so wonderful to hear. But next up, I'd love to talk a little bit more about specific protocols that you've had to put into place in light of COVID-19. So I'd like to turn it over to Rip next. Just if you could share a little bit about the convention center's safety protocols and how those might affect conventions in the future, and how that might be implemented for future events.
Sure. So the first thing is to realize that we've moved past cleaning and housekeeping, and all venues are implementing a process or an approach called infection control. And cleaning, housekeeping, all of those pieces are a part of that. We chose to do that through the Global Biorisk Advisory Council STAR certification and the Rice Safe program that Sodexo does for food and beverage. So we have the GBAC, we call it. We've achieved that certification. And then we and the Tourism Authority contacted 13 other California destinations in May of last year. And so the 14 convention centers and the 14 DMOs, like the Tourism Authority here, formed the California Convention Center Coalition. And we have worked to write these guidelines that we've submitted to the state as a set of safe reopening guidelines that we've committed to that would allow us to open safely for conventions and trade shows through that. Now, both our website and the Tourism Authority's website dedicated sections to COVID-19, like probably all of you have too. And then we link to the county updates and the public health guidance, all of those kinds of real-time information sources for customers. And right now, education of our destination is key for our meeting planners from our point of view. And so on our website, which is visitsandiego.com, we have a safe meetings page under the meeting planner section and one under the attendee section, because there's going to be responsibility and accountability for the venue, for the planner, and also for the attendee. And so we try to start defining where that accountability comes from so we can continue to expand and update information that's specific to those needs. Now, we've spoken with our customers and the Tourism Authority and many in the local hospitality community, and we've concluded that the trends that we're seeing from such studies as SEER and Freeman Research and North Star, we believe those are pretty accurate. And so those trend lines that we're seeing show that we're going to be seeing this online movement through now and then gradually into the summer. There should be an uptick nationally, at least, of between 50 to 70% through this summer and fall of people who are willing to return to smaller in-person events. And then we start to see a fuller recovery next year and getting up into the 80 percentiles in spring of next year. But we have a full calendar in the second half of this year. What we don't have are approved guidelines from the state that are going to allow us to reopen. So we're working really hard with advocacy efforts to try and get these guidelines. We hope to hear something soon. All of the information we've supplied to the state has been vetted through the county health, and they've been incredibly supportive, as well as the city. So we have a very unified collaborative approach between the hospitality community and local government agencies and entities. So we're just waiting as patiently as we can to find out what kind of guidelines we're going to have issued and when we might be able to kick that off. But for now, we still have a full calendar the second half of the year, and we're hoping we can get some of them in. And as soon as we know something, we'll get that out to everyone.
We appreciate that, Rip. And we know that those conventions really impact the hospitality industry as a whole here in San Diego. So it's exciting to hear the optimism, and we definitely will look forward to staying tuned as we hear more guidelines. Cris, I'd love if you could speak a little bit about what you've done for this year as far as innovative event design and layouts go, just in addressing some of these safety measures.
Thanks. Kind of piggybacking on what Rip said in going through my slides here, we have no official guidelines yet. How is it that we've been 1 year and we continue to ask for guidance just to figure out what we can and we can't do? The worst thing is to give a plan or no plan. I mean, we all want plans, right? So the official guidelines right now, there's nothing. But according to CAPE, which is the California Association of Private Events, we should see those guidelines. They were optimistic to even have them March 19th. So we're really, I think Rip might say we're on the cusp of getting some information. And the website you can check out for capecalifornia.org to get that information. They They're just waiting for us to be opened up. One of the things that I found, and we're still doing events, we are doing backyards and doing it as safely as possible with small households and with various different things, because we've gone through the red tier and the purple tier, and we've gone through all the tiers, right? So in pre-COVID, the occupancy was determined by square footage, obviously. 9 square feet, you had a ceremony or a seated presentation. 15 square feet, that was general dining. 20 square feet, that was the dining with the band and the buffet and all of that. Now there's talk of 49 square feet per person, which is what has been requested through the fire permits that I've been sending to the fire marshal. So, and I've spoken with many hoteliers that I have contacts with, and they're saying that they're taking their max occupancy loads for their spaces and reducing it down to about a fourth or 25% to sell the things that they've got going forward for the rest of this year. So kind of looking at if you have a ballroom that has 400 person occupancy, taking it down to being just 100 people. To see that's what they're thinking, that in spacing everyone out, that's the kind of room that we're going to need to take care of the people and the attendees. Some of the things that my company has done, we did a trade show in the one on the left side. That was in Arizona, and their policies were to do the trade show only on one side and have everything like in the grocery store where you have a one-way going all the way through. They had it a one-way. Nobody could double back. Nobody could go back and look at anything. They had it a one-way going through. So I'm not sure if that's how we're going to see things in the future. I don't know. Rip would probably be able to talk to that. But that was, I know, in Arizona last year for the trade shows. We've put together things, like I said before, barriers, putting together things that kind of allow us to partition people off and give them space so that they feel comfortable within, whether it's just the people that are in their pod or the people that they came there with, to kind of keep them safe. Decorative curtains, things like that, laser cutting, planter boxes, all of those kinds of things are the things that we've done besides tents to keep people safe and also make them feel like they're still part of the event. One of the things is dance floor solutions. And this is one that a friend of mine, Bernie, with Absolutely Fabulous, came up with when he knew that I was going to be on this panel. He sends me this information about a dance floor solution that he came up with, creating dance pods. And it would little 4x4 pieces. He's even got these little mannequins on there, which I thought was great. And having people dance in these pods around the maybe a big dance in the middle of whoever it is. I'm focusing probably a little bit on weddings in this way because I'm wedding centric a lot, but in events anyways, a bigger dance floor in the middle with all these pods on the outside. I thought it was a cool event. Thought I'd bring it here to you guys, see what you think of it. But I feel like the pandemic really taught us a lot of things. And like Rip said, looking at buffets and sanitation, we will never look at that the same, I think. We're tightening up our contract language because I had a lot of events that went from 2020 or to 2021, and now we've gone out even further to 2022, and people wanting their money back and people wanting we have the challenges with that because we're doubling up. We only have so many hours in the day, and we're doing work on these events, and we're not getting paid for the work because then they're canceling or they're postponing even further. Streamlining charging for those missed opportunities and streamlining what you really need in life. I think I figured out that I don't need a lot of the things that I need that I thought I needed before. And a lot of meetings on Zoom and can be handled virtually instead of me driving all the way across town in traffic. That's a gift. I feel like we figured out that we don't actually have to drive all the way across. We can do meetings like this. And my last thing was that Zoom school sucks because I'm a mom and I can't take it anymore. So that's
what
all.
a year.
Yeah.
Definitely. I love your optimism and seeing a light at the end of the tunnel there, Cris, but also just making the best of a situation. And the dance pod idea, even in the chat, we've had some folks weigh in. It's such a idea. We may see that being implemented more often. I'm a fan of line dancing. So I always figured that's one thing that, people will spread out perhaps and electric slide it up, but definitely one of those challenges as we keep in mind for future events. Now, Orsika, I'd love to turn it over to you. And as both Cris and Rip mentioned, food is a huge consideration thinking of health and safety, especially in light of, these kind of viruses or just other communicable diseases. But could you share a little bit about how you're having to do things different logistically, or what you're expecting for the future as well?
Well, like everything's changed, and I think our focus now is on health and safety of not only our guests but also our staff too. So in the way we work, obviously everybody wears masks. We've set up an area outside where we package everything, and our kitchen staff is socially distanced. We've emptied out our warehouse and set up different spaces there so people aren't on top of each other. And we've found that we pack everything individually. And so the focus is on, wearing masks, hand sanitizers, hand washing. If someone's sick or even has a headache, we don't know what's wrong with them. Definitely don't come to work. Also, now we've all, starting to get our vaccines and everything. So, and we've been testing everybody for COVID to make sure nobody gets sick. So that's our main focus. I mean, like Cris said, we don't really know what the guidelines are or what's going to happen tomorrow. Everything, what we've learned during COVID is things can change from one day to the next. We haven't really had any events where we'd send out staff because we're not doing that. We've done a few things like drop-offs and things like that. And that protocol too, staff is healthy, they wear gloves, masks, sanitize everything. Our vehicles are cleaned constantly with, we keep sanitizer, wipes, everything to keep everything clean and healthy. So that's the thing. We just kind of learned to live with, well, what happened today? What's next? And kind of go with the flow, because you can't really plan for the future because we don't know what's going to happen and what's going on. So we're lucky that we have this program and we're staying busy, but we're also looking out to the future in hopes of, making things work. And our goal is really to keep our staff and our guests, everybody healthy and safe. So that's a sure thing.
Sure. Now, Orsika, to follow up on that, a big movement of our industry has been to move towards sustainability. Now, COVID-19 has kind of thrown a little bit of a wrench into that effort. Because we're seeing a lot of additional packaging for single-use individual servings. In this time and in this environment, is there a way that we as planners and as vendors can operate with both safety and sustainability in mind?
Well, it's true. We do go through a lot of disposable ware, and we try to use biodegradable things. We have our meals are packed in paper bags, if you want to show some pictures of that. And also our food meals are in biodegradable boxes, and people ask us all the time, can we recycle these? And obviously the answer is no. So it is really hard and a challenge, but we are very conscious, and we do spend extra money on these disposable boxes that are biodegradable and sustainable. It's hard.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you. Thank you for speaking to that. I appreciate that. Rip, I'd love to turn it back over to you. If you could share a little bit about what other regions and countries are doing, some insights from your role as chair of IAVM, and just if that's similar to what we're doing here in San Diego or in this region, or if you're seeing anything that perhaps may be a different way of handling protocols.
Sure. So every state in the United States, every country establishes their own guidelines and health orders. But here in the United States, the states have the predominant authority. Counties and municipalities usually have to conform to state rules, but they have the ability to make them more stringent, as California's proved, but not less stringent. And there really is no federal mandate right now other than for mask coverings and transportation centers and transports, and everything else are advisories and recommendations. But the executive orders that come down from governors are oftentimes driven as much by politics as they are by scientific fact, as we've all come to hear. And if you look at it on a country by country basis, countries are addressing it in different ways, and some are federal, others are local jurisdictions. There is no real consistency worldwide from what we found out. And you can see that just by reading the paper yesterday and today about vaccinations in different parts of the world and how they're being addressed, how the AstraZeneca and others have been taken off of use in certain countries in Europe right now as they try to determine if the blood clots had anything connected to the vaccine that they had established. There's questions about the validity in some countries of their effectiveness or their efficacy. And so there's a lot of things that countries are trying to address. I can tell you that from what we've learned, it appears that Australia and the United States and Canada have done very well with the emergency approvals, and we keep track of those. We have members in 21 countries currently, and so we try to stay up on that. Most of our work is in the United States, and yet the one thing I can tell you wide, and I think all of us on this call would agree with, is that the two things that we're working on is stabilization and recovery. So every idea we can think of to help each other, and it's never been a better time in our industry to collaborate and to pick up the phone and call someone for advice or question, and be able to not only ask the question that you don't know an answer to, but to be able to give an answer if you have had some experience already. And so one of the big factors in venues right now is that almost every convention center, 90%, don't qualify for any of the federal stimulus monies because they are agencies of municipalities or county or state, and that funding goes to local municipalities first, and then they have to fight for the ability to say we're worthy, we are an organization that's critical, therefore we should have a piece of that CARES Act money. And a lot of cities just aren't doing that. We're fortunate as an entity. We're actually a 501c3 operating company, which allowed us to qualify for the PPP loan. And so we've been able to do that. And the city has provided us some CARES Act money through the sheltering. But what I see across the country is that everyone is really working hard in advocacy to say we need help, and we're important enough that you should recognize the impact we provide to the economy and make us critical, and that it just depends on who has the seat of power in those different municipalities and states.
Sure, sure. Thank you for sharing that, Rip. Now, as we transition to looking ahead as well, I'd love for all of you to get out your crystal balls and just kind of share what you think is really going to be happening here in the future. But Orsika, my first question is for you in regards to kind of forecasting for future events and for future protocols. And I'm wondering, what do you think caterers will need to be doing or changing to remain creative and competitive and viable in the industry? And then are there certain food trends that you've really kind of incorporated this year out of necessity that you think will continue to carry through into the future?
I this last month I've been talking to a lot of prospective brides for the end of this year and for 2022, and even some of the brides that we had booked for last year that we have to rebook, and just trying to figure out a way that, like, how we can pull these things off. And I mean, the whole purpose of an event, especially like weddings and some other events, is it's a party and have fun. And we do need to stay safe, sorry. But so I think we really do need to figure out a way to serve food in a safe way that, I think that the days of like self-service, like taco bars and salsa bars and things like that, I think that's done. So, how can we still provide all that, the fun element of the food? And so I think we really have to make it about the whole experience of eating and having a party. And I think people nowadays really want to get together with their friends and celebrate life and what's really important. I think parties are going to be smaller. They're going to be more intimate. We're leaning more towards plated dinners, maybe several courses, and actually making a whole experience out of sitting down and having dinner and being with your friends, because everybody misses their friends, and having fun drinks and really putting the focus on the experience of dining. And I think the whole dining experience is probably going to come back, because that seems to be the safest way. And I think, like anything, like what we've learned this year is that doing something and actually making things happen, we kind of figured out how to do it. And I think as time goes along, we'll really figure out how to, maybe it's going to be a whole new different type of service, whether we serve, several different courses on different types of plates and things like that. So I think people are always going to party, and they do want to have fun and events, it's been, and be social. And that's what we've all missed so much. And when the pandemic first broke out, I thought, oh, like in the fall, we'll be so busy. Everybody's going to want to have a party. But that never happened. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do think it's going to be more about the experience of the food. And I've been talking to prospective brides and other people. I haven't, not so much the corporate, but more weddings and birthday parties. People still want to celebrate that. So, and I think people are going to continue to celebrate the special, what's important in life, and what they really need. And, maybe more comfort type food, or, it's really it's going to be about the experience and how the food's served and how it's manifested in the event itself. So I think that's probably what the trend is going to be. And we'll figure out how to do it in the most safest way for our staff and for our guests, and without making it awkward, because it is awkward. We haven't had any parties yet, but I wouldn't want to sit at a table with somebody all the way at the other side. I don't know if we're going to do it with like people that are within their pods, and I think we just have to be a lot more creative, and we'll come up with something as time comes along. So.
Yeah. You know, something you mentioned, Orsika, and Cris mentioned this earlier also, is that we're learning what we can live without. And it seems like we are kind of bringing it back to the basics. As you mentioned, making food kind of its own experience. So I think that's something that is really pretty special to take away from this time. We're learning not to take for granted those times that we can be together. And I know everyone's looking forward to being back together and as live events kind of ramp up. But Cris, I would love to ask you, do you think 2020 is still going to leave kind of this lasting impression on events in the future and on our industry? And if so, do you think it'll be kind of a bad taste, or do you think there will be some positives that we continue to bring forward into our future events?
There we go. I think I agree with Orsika, is that, you know, that the days of that big long buffet with all the food on it, soup plantation style for them, that, you know, that's just not happening anymore. And in fact, in watching shows with my daughter, she saw that the food was out on plates, and she said, "Gosh, that doesn't seem safe, Mom." I mean, we're getting into I guess a hypervigilance that many of it's going to permeate our entire society. You know, we're looking at things through a lens that 2020 has colored us. You know, I feel like that's going to leave a mark, as they say. You know, that we're definitely going to have that. One of the things I thought was interesting in the chat that Judy brought up was making an event for an area for vaxxed people and non-vaxxed people. And that's an interesting thing to me. You know, that's something that I'm sure can be easily done. You know, doing something that is, whether it's an armband or it's something that tells you I don't know, armband, that sounds terrible. But now, you know, a wristband or whatever that says, yes, I've been vaccinated and I'm good to go with people without a mask next to me, that kind of thing, interacting with folks. I see that in backyards, people want to be close, but they actually also want to give each other space. So even in your own private home, in your backyard, people are being vigilant about giving space. So in places like the convention center and hotels and all of this, I think that we're going to see a lot more. We're just not going to be able to jam as many people in to places as we have in the past. And we're going to have to give people their space to be able to come back together. And plexiglass costs a lot of money, by the way. Everybody wants plexiglass. The plexiglass people are making money hand over fist. Let me tell you that, because it's quite pricey.
Yeah, if we could have only known what was coming, we would have definitely known where to invest this year. A lot of different industries that, you know, we wouldn't have expected, perhaps.
Who would have known?
Yeah. Rip, my next question is for you. And I think this is something that a lot of us planners are really considering as we look ahead. But do you think we'll ever see trade shows or exhibit floors, convention floors set up the same way as we knew them pre-COVID?
You know, I think we all are at a point where we believe it's yet to be really fully determined. But me personally, yeah, I think it will, yes. And the reason I say that is because we can't keep people from gathering together in backyards. We can't keep people from, you know, gathering at restaurants and bars. And people have this inherent, innate desire to be with each other. We're going to be impacted as much by corporate budgets and by other factors than we are by the desire for people to travel and to be together, I believe. But I also think it's going to be a really, especially for us in California, I think it's going to be a phased approach. And I think we're going to have face coverings, distancing, infection control, all these other kinds of protocols for months, even years. And I think the phasing is likely going to include probably wider aisles at conventions, maybe limited attendance at first. I think that's interesting in the venue world, because if you say it can only be 50% occupancy, the difference in a practical occupancy after you fill a room with things versus the rated occupancy is still a debate. So if you are in a room that holds 600 people, but you can only get 300 in there with classroom setup, is that meeting the 50 percentile? And you know, many would make the argument that it does. So we're hoping that that all gets clarified. But even long term, I think what we're going to begin to see in every venue sector, not just convention centers, but I think there is going to be this paradigm shift with venue design, and particularly with the size of the different spaces, particularly common space lobbies where people may be vetted for health and safety clearances. I think we're going to start seeing you know, ways that people are going to spread out more for registration and for essential services before they ever get into being able to identify of a space that is for vaccinated or non-vaccinated. Somewhere there's a check station that everybody has to go through. And so a lot of that is yet to be determined. We can't really determine that until we receive the guidelines that we all want. I agree with both of you that the food and beverage is definitely going to change, especially short term. And we may have a permanent shift long term on how food and beverage is done. Hard to say, but it's obvious that our friends who are focused in the catering business cannot afford to shift from one methodology to another and back and forth and remain in business. So, you know, there's going to be a change, and it's going to have to last for a while so that companies will be able to survive and be able to economically do what they do. So, and I think that one of the other things that's going to be interesting is that we've proven over the last year as society that virtual is a component that we can deal with. And I believe that we're going to see more and more hybrid moving forward. I also think that that's an opportunity, and you know, Lisa, you probably have known me now enough to know I'm an optimist, but I consider myself a realistic optimist, which means that I think that there's still hope and brighter days ahead, but I'm not going to ignore the pain points along the way. It's going to take a while to get back to where we were before. But that being said, I think associations and organizations have a real opportunity, particularly with an international audience, to get back to where they were in their attendance. And because they've perfected virtual, add a whole other market segment that can be done online and in an academy learning format. And so I actually think some associations are going to see this as a real opportunity to grow their footprint worldwide. Now, I also want to just say that, you know, for the majority of our business at the center, it's association business, and you know, the profit or the surplus that they get in their annual conventions provide these associations the majority of their funding for the year, which allows them to do their educational programming and drive the trade show floor, and to be able to do advocacy at federal and state levels, and all of those things that associations exist for. A huge portion of that comes from that trade show floor. And so this aspect is going to be really interesting, and it's going to be particularly difficult to replicate ever in a virtual sense. We've already seen that. But I personally am confident that demand will still be there, even if the layout is different.
Agreed.
We appreciate your optimism, Rip. And sorry, Cris, go ahead.
No, I said I 100% agree.
Great,
Can't take
great.
parties away.
Well,
Yeah.
we do have a couple of questions coming in from the chat, so I'd love to kind of share those. I'm sorry to throw our panelists a little curveball here, but I'm going to put you on the spot. This is a question for all of you. If you have experience with any change in language disclaimers, kind of a legal question, as far as being held liable if any of your attendees contract COVID.
I'm going to let Rip go with that one.
Okay, the answer is yes. And we've seen a lot of change in a lot of things. One of them is indemnification and liability language, but That's also why we are doing these accountability charts that outline, here's the responsibility we have as a venue, here's the responsibility you have as a planner, and here's the responsibility you attendee have. Because if someone who's an attendee comes in and is infected and unhealthy and creates an outbreak, that isn't the planner or the venue's liability. That becomes that attendee's liability. So we're working on that as a matter of policy and guidelines that are going to be part of the license agreement. I will tell you the most frequently asked change in license agreements right now at a venue level is about force majeure. Everyone wants pandemic language put into their license agreement now in force majeure. So the hard part with force majeure is that it is all contingent upon what existing health order is in effect at the time the event occurs. So there's a middle ground that's likely going to be struck with a lot of customers, because you can't simply say, if we have a pandemic, I get my money back. You as a meeting planner, that really doesn't help you that much, because you're going to know pretty quickly in advance whether you're going to be able to have a show or not. At the same time, for the venue sector, you don't want to have someone have the ability to cancel 2 years out because of a rumor about some form of infection that might be occurring. And so it all boils down to what those health orders and the jurisdiction at the time have. And so there's a huge debate going on right now about what force majeure means in relationship to health. But it still boils down to, if we as a venue ignore safety protocols, or a planner ignores them, or if an attendee is just doing something they shouldn't and it's unhealthy, there's plenty of it to go around, I guess is the way I would say it.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. A lot of places to point the blame. Here's another question for all of you. At an event, if someone were to attend without a mask, how would you address that? Or how would you enforce mask wearing and safety protocols with your attendees?
Well, they have to wear a mask. That's bottom line. That's the rule. All the staff has to wear a mask, and there's no exception for that. So we would just tell people they would have to have a mask.
I've done events, like I said, over the last year, and I've done, as a wedding planner, actually doing wedding backyard events and things. And I leave it up to the owners of the house to determine what they require. And many times it's just family members that have been involved. But I wear a mask, and I make sure that my staff is wearing masks, and we sanitize and make sure everything's taken care of. I see someone coming towards me, I don't know, without a mask. I think visibly alerted. Probably I'm not good on poker, so I'm visibly like a little agitated, I would say. But I just got my first shot, so yay. Second shot gonna come in a couple weeks, so hopefully, yay. Hopefully we will be. One of the chats said, do you feel like there's gonna be, I feel that by October-ish, everyone that is going to be vaccinated probably is going to get a chance to be vaccinated. I'm seeing they're popping up at Rite Aid and lots of different vaccination centers. So I feel optimistic, as Rip does, that we're going to be able to move forward, and we're going to be able to move back. But wear a mask.
Yeah, the other part of that in the future is going to be what health orders are in effect at the time. Because if there's a health order and you're a venue operator, the license agreement or lease agreement is going to say you have to abide by all local, state, national laws or executive orders. And so it becomes an enforcement issue at a harsh level. It's not allowing the show to open because they're not abiding by the terms of the agreement. At a more local level, it becomes a meaning in the show. It becomes a planner's responsibility to work with their security team to be able to determine if a person is removed or not based upon that health order. So it's sort of a trickle down effect on what kind of ramifications there are if you ignore it. That also, though, allows if you as a company want to set a company policy about a particular health guidance, wearing masks being one of those, then you can enforce that. But even then, with the laws in California, some of that gets a little confusing. So, for instance, we had a ruling from the state that we couldn't force our team to wear N95 masks, and if we asked them and they volunteered, they had to go through an orientation and then sign a document that basically states that they understand how to wear it and why they're wearing it. And so there are some different laws out there, and I would recommend you work with whatever association you're part of, whether it's CAPE or any of the others, and find out what the jurisdiction is on what is required for your own employees.
Great. Another question that I'd love to hear from all of you is, what can MPI do to support your reopening efforts? Now, we as an association have the voice of the industry, but how can we use that voice to really help one another and see some change and some regulation and stuff come from above?
Well, I'll go first. I think very first thing is share. 2 heads are better than 1, 4 are better than 2, 8 are better than 4, and more of the collaborative effort that we have, whether it's in guidelines or advocacy or education, the more we do that, the better we're all going to be. And so what I applaud MPI in doing at local and national levels, international levels, is the ability to continue to provide resources and guidance on how to produce safe, reopening events and meetings, and continue to provide that research on trends and demands, because we're using that, all of us at some level are using that information to prove our point when we're asking elected officials to approve our guidelines or to help us move forward. And so coming together with panels like this to find best practices and protocols that authorities will approve for safe reopenings is incredibly valuable. And sometimes it's even just being able to vent and have a glass of wine. So, some days that emotional, that emotional side of who we are and that emotional intelligence, it's not the same in virtual format, but we still need each other.
I 100% agree with Rip. I also want to throw out there again with CAPE, because I know that that group has really worked hard on getting the ear of public health and of the legislators. And we have all the emails of every legislator that is involved with trying to get us those guidelines, and emails to them, not just a form email, but an email stating how it's affected your business, how it's affected your family. Means a lot to get that information to the legislators, tug on those heartstrings, let them know that I've got friends that now have to move to Texas because they can't afford it here. I've got florists that have to pack up their showrooms that they've had for 17 years and take it out of their garage now. We've been impacted, and we need to let those legislators know that the taxpayers and these people, we're waiting for their guidance, and we need them to step up and give us that information. So CaliforniaCape.org, and there's even a thing where you can do a video. But I appreciate MPI and the education that it has always provided.
Hello.
Hey, Orsika.
I agree with all of that. I think collaboration's great. I mean, look at the restaurants. All the restaurants are open, and not to capacity. A lot of restaurants have gone out of business, But why is it okay for them to move into the streets, take over the streets and set up tables and things? I don't see how an event that is with a bunch of people that know each other for like a social event, a birthday party or some kind of gathering, there are no guidelines. And I think it's time that we did have some guidelines, and how the restaurants have gone together and the catering and the event industry gets some attention, because a lot of us are suffering for it.
Definitely. And just to kind of build off that last question and that last thought, not only about getting our voice heard with regulation and with some of our legislators, but how can we work together as an industry to support one another? How can planners be supporting our venues and our vendors and vice versa? What are some ideas that we can do to implement collaboration?
I guess I'll go first. I say reach out. One of my things that I've always done in 28 years of doing events is if I'm at a venue, I'm going to reach out to the person at the venue that's in charge of it so that I know what they're asking of me. I don't ever let my end user client tell me what the parameters are that they understand from the venue, because I want to hear it from the venue. The venue is going to be the one that's going to butter my bread in the future and make sure that when I'm going to be going in or when I'm going out, how's load in, how's load out, when do you need all the information from me? That's what I need to do, is make sure that we're always looking at the venues and at the caterers. Constant communication with them is the most important thing. And we all know that, our end users, God bless them, they don't always get everything correct. So getting it straight from the horse's mouth is usually the best.
Yeah, I think another factor too, and thank you, Cris. I felt bad going first again, so I was waiting to see. So thank you, Cris. I agree with what you said. And the other piece I think is that we are, I think we're going to hit a real issue with maintaining talent in the industry. And I don't mean just at our own companies or organizations, but we've had tens of thousands of people in the hospitality industry in San Diego County and the region that have been laid off, furloughed, or lost their jobs or chosen to leave. When it comes back, when the business is strong again, having that talent base to help us maintain that service reputation that we have as a destination is going to be really important, because we want to prove that we're better than the next destination. We want to be that organization. We all want everybody else in the country to call us to ask us how we did something, because we're better at it. I mean, that's frankly what we all want to do. And so, we've got to have the talent available to us, and so many of our organizations have taken such a huge hit financially that they've had to do layoffs and they've had to make difficult decisions. And we're not, we're part of that. We're not immune from that. We've laid off 75% of our team, and so it's painful. And there's a lot of things that have the opportunity to keep me awake at night. One of them, though, is being able to know that the talent that we've accrued over the last 30 years is going to be available when the customers come back. And so I think one of the things we can do for each other is a bit of comfort, but at the same time, really reaching out to the people in the industry, from the part-timer we hired, the day before we shut down, to someone who's made their living their entire career in hospitality tourism. Thank them for what they do. Try and keep them in the fold so that our industry has the talent to keep us at the top.
I actually created a Google Doc to try to remember where everyone is now at the different venues and at the different locations, because there has been so much shifting and so much going on. So I do have a Google Doc. If anybody emails me, Cris@raphaels.com, I can send you the Google Doc of different venues, who the contact is that's actually answering the phones now and emailing, so that we can all get on the same page.
That right there is a gold mine, Cris. Be careful what you offer. Everyone should take her up on that, because that's so valuable. And I think that's another takeaway from this year, is that the unity that we go through things once we're all together. You know, it's some really big challenges that we've had to be faced with, but that as an industry, we've really come together, and being able to reach out to one another and just encourage each other in these times, I think has been such a strength and such a great quality of the hospitality industry, the meetings and events, and all of these venues that are here in San Diego. For closing remarks, I'd love for you to just share, you know, any last thoughts as you face, you know, the future ahead. What's your last message, and what do you feel? I know Rip is constantly expressing optimism, but if there's anything else that you'd like to share, anything that you're taking away from today and from this conversation, we'd love to hear that today as well. So perhaps Orsika, I could start with you.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm hoping everything, I don't think it's going to come back to normal, but like I said, we have to remain flexible, see how it goes, keep safety in mind, and just stay open to new opportunities and just go with the flow.
Rip, any last thoughts?
Yeah, I would just reinforce from my point of view, at least, that we need to have a realistic optimism. I believe there are better days to come. I believe there's still some great things our industry can do. And I believe that because we are the destination that we are, we have an opportunity to really set that pace, not only for California, but for the country. And I believe with a lot of hard work and pain, we're going to be able to do that. The realistic version of that is that we're not going to be able to snap our fingers and make it happen tomorrow or next month or even at the end of the year. But I think it's as important to be able to provide that message to not only the constituent base of anybody who supports and does business with us, but also to our team members. I believe that the realistic optimism of saying better times are ahead, but we have to realistically know we've got some pain points that still are going to exist before we get there. So, and I think if we take that, understand it, or at least accept it, and then agree to work together to find solutions, we're going to be better for it.
Thank you. And Cris, any last
I can't
thoughts?
really add to the eloquence of Rip. I mean,
Yeah.
he said it all. And just, I think someone in the comments said, buy MPI, buy from each other. Let's support each other. Let's be here for each other. If you know somewhere that you can get an association out to one of us for MPI, let's all band together and make this better, because we are better. We are San Diego. I mean, gosh.
Absolutely. Well, wonderful. I really want to thank our panelists so much for sharing their time and expertise. And I'm a humble recipient of your wisdom today. And I hope everyone else really got some strong takeaways as well. For everyone that's still tuning in, you will be receiving an email survey following this event. We'd love for you to submit your feedback just so that we can continue to improve, continue to offer strong information and education, the resources that you really need at this time. So please submit your honest feedback. We look forward to receiving that from you. And again, thank you to our panelists so much for sharing with us and for taking the time, the valuable time out of your busy days. Truly appreciate it. And as Cris encouraged us, buy MPI. We're stronger together. Thank you everyone for tuning in today, and hope you all have a wonderful remainder of your week.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks.
Bye.
Are we leaving?